Well, at last now we know the date. October 17th will be an historic day, the day recreational cannabis becomes legal in Canada. And yes, we'll try to blunt all the inevitable pot puns that will precede this. Still, there are lots of questions left on everything from enforcement to distribution. And it's still unclear whether Canadians convicted of minor cannabis crimes like possession will receive pardons should the government wipe the slate clean now that it's almost legal. To get some answers, we're now joined by the Public Safety Minister, Ralph Goodale. Minister Goodale, great to have you back on the program. I want to start with this issue of impairment. I've spoken to police chiefs, like the police chief in Ottawa. He told me the federal government has not yet even chosen the device that police will use to test for impairment for marijuana. Then you got to purchase it and train police and distribute it. That could be 4 to 6 months away. Why has the federal government failed to give police the proper tools to protect citizens before it passed the law?
Well, we've been working with the provinces and with law enforcement to get fully ready for this situation, understanding, Evan, that impaired driving, whether it's drug impaired or alcohol impaired, is an offense today. It happens today. The change in the law that's coming in October will not create the problem. The problem already exists. So we've been working on Bill C-46, which is the impaired driving law, to give us the toughest impaired driving regime in the world for both alcohol and drugs. And we're trying to improve the tools and resources that police officers have to deal with that problem today and ongoing into the future. We've done field testing on various devices. They work, but they need to be scientifically certified. That is happening now by a special forensic committee of scientists that's examining this. When they're done their work, which we expect in the days immediately ahead, then the Minister of Justice would be in a position to formally certify them for use under the criminal code.
Minister, you talked about passing the toughest enforcement laws, both for cannabis and marijuana, but this new law allows police to use what's called mandatory alcohol screening. This is for alcohol. That means police no longer have to have reasonable suspicion to pull someone over and administer a breathalyzer, which there are concerns about. There's concerns that not only does this violate people's civil liberties, especially, sir, minorities who already feel targeted by police and racial profiling. Why is this new police power necessary?
Well, the power is available after someone has been pulled over. It's not the cause for pulling them over. So there are two stages here. Police need to have the appropriate reason for pulling someone over. And then once they have them pulled over, they can require the mandatory alcohol testing. We are convinced it is constitutionally valid. There will probably be court challenges, but we're quite convinced that we'll win those court challenges.
Okay. There's real concerns about civil liberties. And just, can you answer the question on minorities, though? Because there's been a lot of racial profiling data. You know this, that people, minorities, visible minorities get pulled over disproportionately in many cities across Canada. Now, police are going to have the mandatory alcohol screening. They won't even need a reasonable suspicion to give them a breathalyzer. Aren't you concerned that this could disproportionately affect minorities?
Police need to perform their functions in a bias-free manner. And we will be making that abundantly clear to police officers across the country, as they already know that principle. Police chiefs have made it very clear that they strive to adhere to that principle. The same with the RCMP. This is a constant issue that we need to be alert to in policing, to make sure that the police powers in this country, whether it's in relation to drunk driving or any other offense, that those powers are administered in a fashion that is fair and equitable to everyone without bias.
The problem with what you're saying is there is a built-in bias, and I'm concerned about this. Bill Blair, former Toronto police chief and your government's point person, has openly admitted that Black and Indigenous Canadians have been disproportionately convicted of cannabis possession. He said it was unjust. If that's the case, and you're so concerned about bias, why won't your government pardon people with existing cannabis possession convictions right now?
That is a question, Evan, that's a very legitimate question, and one that we will be pursuing once the law changes. At the moment, the law has not changed. The existing law that has existed for 100 years is still in place. When that law changes, which will happen on the 17th of October, then the government will turn its attention to those issues that arise once the law has changed, which is in fact making sure that it is fair, both in current terms and historic terms, to everyone.
Minister, let's move on to the border. Obviously, in the wake of the controversy over Donald Trump administration's separating children of illegal border crossers from their parents, warehousing them. In your mind, is the United States still considered a safe third country to send back people who are seeking asylum here in Canada, or given what the Trump administration has done and the lingering questions over that, is it time to change that law?
We're obviously in conversation with the United States, and have been for some time now, about the Safe Third Agreement. It has existed for a number of years. After that period of time, it needs to be modernized and upgraded. In terms of the requirements to satisfy third country status, that is constantly monitored by us and by the United Nations. To this point, we do not have a basis upon which to change that assessment, but it is constantly under review and examination by Canada, as the United States would look at us as well, but also by the United Nations. And the United Nations' view on this is extremely important.
Minister, you know, despite all the controversy, Canada also detains families at the border. There have been 600 minors who have been detained at the border, 43 with no parents. Is it hypocritical to condemn the United States for something that Canada has also done? And when will Canada change that policy? What new measures are you taking, and when to stop that?
Our objective is to detain as little as possible and to keep families together as much as possible. And of course, the numbers in Canada have been dropping over the last 3 years. I introduced a new national framework to govern detention issues 2 years ago, and that has had the impact, beginning to have the impact that we wanted to see, with the numbers coming down, the facilities being improved. We're investing $138 million to upgrade the facilities to prevent as much as possible the use of provincial jails. The best interests of the child is the primary consideration.
I got to leave it there. Minister Goodale, always good to have you on the program as the summer kicks off, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks to talk to you.